All right, all right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, brothers and sisters all over the world. All right, the name of this channel is The African Times, and I'm Thomas. All right, everybody, we're going to jump right in. I got a brother here I need you to listen to uh, from Africa. And this brother is, the reason I'm sending this video out is this brother is saying exactly what the situation is here in Africa. And I know and you know this is exactly the situation that we faced in America, and it's still happening in America, just in a way that makes most of you think that it's not. The other thing that this is happening in Brazil, this is happening in France, this is happening in the UK, this is happening in the Caribbean islands, this is happening everywhere where these people have large populations of black people and are dominating them and oppressing them. So without any further ado, I want you to listen to this brother, okay? And then we'll talk it a little bit. Here he is. This is from the Make Africa Great channel. Check that channel out and check this brother out.
I was actually prepared. Had France striked Niger, I was ready to go to war myself and go and join him in the liberation of Africa. That is the Che Guevara spirit. Burkina Faso, Mali. Now, as of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Senegal has even walked onto the stage with a much bolder statement. Pack up and go. Switched off the TVs, what. Just go. And anyone who thinks that, see, our age groups, the 40 years and above, we're in the deep end because we're now CEOs of Old Mutual, we're CEOs of multinational companies, we are beneficiaries, we are almost looking forward to our retirement. We don't want the system to change because we benefit. But the students have nothing to lose. They're actually looking forward to a much more integrated society than the parents are. Take note, the opening up of universities to international students. Now here you are, top of the crop, Harvard University, with Pakistani students, with Palestine students, in the same classroom, with Jewish students, and American bigoted parents, students, children, in the same class. Friendships amongst the students. Common understanding. Unity and harmony amongst them. And then your father is the army general in Palestine. And I am a victim. My sister lost her legs and her eyes, and your father killed my sister. The politics changes altogether. So if you're looking at what has happened to Burkina Faso as a joke, the younger generation is beginning to hear a different voice of liberation. That it is possible. We cannot be called Africa and a poor, third world, dark African continent. When right now we can also speak English. We can recite poetry. We can also run machineries like everybody else. We can create our own fashions. We can do our own engineering. We now know what gold looks like. We now know what diamonds look like. We now know what platinum and lithium can produce. We can also make our own industry and produce our own batteries. No, man, something is not happening here. Someone is not telling the truth here. And that frustration worse when these young people are now graduating from schools and they can't find employment. Because the colonial system only funnels a few. Mathematics and English, you pass there, then you get to school, you get scholarships, and then they swallow you back. The rest of you go back to work. So you cannot run a system which literally tells you failed primary school, you failed high school, you failed your college, and you have all these dumping sites away from school. You start class at primary school, 100 of you. By the time you get to primary school, maybe it's 80 of you. By the time you get to high school, maybe it's only 50 of you. By the time you get to college, maybe it's only 10 of you. By the time you come to graduate school, maybe it's only 3 of you. The same class that you had in your primary school, if right now you said, now you're a doctor, a professor, how many of you? It could be 1 or 2. What happened to the other 98? They fizzled out into spaces. And when you look at a system that throws away people like that, frustration begins to grow on the wings. And as such, what happened in Mali, what is happening in Senegal, what is happening in Burkina Faso, what is happening in Niger? See, you're asking that question. Did this start in Niger? And then from Niger to Mali, for me, Burkina Faso, now Senegal, and watch the space as the young people of Africa, just like the Palestine student revolution, as it begins to happen. It's very interesting to note. Any government that is going to have elections in the next 2 to 3 years, take an advice from a fool, that is me. You need to watch very carefully the youth vote and the direction of their intentions. The young people are now tired of old goats who go to parliament as a retirement package, who simply go there just to maintain the status quo and continuously show a smile at the United Nations when taking pictures with whites, and come back home here and there's no change. So yes, I can confirm the revolution has started. It will not stop. We'll do well to cooperate with each other to deliver the Africa that we want. The Romans, the Herulis, the Visigoths, the Alemanes, the Germans in Namibia. And then you look at them rushing into Africa, taking a piece of pen, drawing their maps around, dividing nations, dividing tribes. How does it make sense that the Maasai of Tanzania are different from the Maasais of Kenya, different from the Maasais of Uganda? Like really? The Tongas of Zambia, Angola, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe. So colonialism simply meant the division of Africa into the colonial hands. The next group then will be the colonized. Colonized are the Africans, who then find themselves as subjects and slaves on their own land. No more rights of driving their own agenda, but now they must report to a system, and a system which reports back to its European principles. So colonialism finds its main drivers being the kings of Europe, and the governments of Europe, and their appetite for African resources and products and services, and to access that by force, bringing the people of those regions into subordination through war, genocides, and mass killing. And then colonization became the institution where these various governments started to work in cooperation with each other, creating preferable trade routes for each other, depending on their own relationships, not about local people. The colonization project becomes extensive, so that even the whole continent of Africa is covered in this blanket of white supremacy. And with colonization came what we call white monopoly capital, where the economy of those countries remain now in the hands of the white people, and the blacks simply being looked at as workers, slaves, and servants. The impact of colonization is brainwashing, using religion, using education, using entertainment to create different role models altogether. Here now our children being taught Casper and the Friendly Ghosts, Tinky Winky. They're being taught, Snoopy Dogs. They're being taught the Seven Dwarfs. They're being taught William Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. Even when they go to school to study their own history, they don't study their history. They're being taught to study their history. It's not about us, it's about them. So you go to school, they're being taught about Napoleon Bonaparte, Charlemagne's, the Bolshevik Wars, the industrialization, and etc. And you wonder, where do you even study about Kemet, the building of the pyramids, the Great Zimbabwe, the Benin, technologies, and so colonization has a very intricate, subtle way of playing around with the minds of the black person and making them less than they are, than they know, than they deserve to be. And the impact of that results in neocolonization, where even when a black person is now in power, he does not remember where he's coming from. but he remembers where the white man wants him to go. So our present governments right now are there to enforce the same principles of what the colonizers were doing. So you come from the war, you've been fighting the liberation struggle, liberation. But the day you are liberated and you lift up your hand to be sworn in as a president, you are swearing on the white Bible. You are swearing into the white parliament that they built. You are swearing on the constitution, on the literature that they are giving you. And you are going to an office that the white men used to sit on. So your ministers and ministries are simply driving the same agenda. The laws of mining have not changed. The laws of land have not changed. The laws of indigenous medicines have not changed. In some certain countries, the laws of indigenous medicines actually fall under witchcraft, the Witchcraft Act. Now, how do you begin to say you are liberated when in fact your liberation has nothing to do with liberating your land, liberating your kings, liberating your culture, liberating your diet, liberating your celebrations? And so in your towns, you still find these big white men standing as statues. Your cities are still being called by the name of the colonizers. Your rivers is the same thing. And then the borders, oh wow, the borders are still exactly where they were as Leopold put them. Then the question is, how civilized, how liberated, how independent are you when your independence now is no longer independence, but it is dependence? You depend on what? Donor money. You depend on grants. You depend on loans. You depend on the same colonial system to help you to build your... Now, where have you ever seen that happen? That the person who colonized you will help you to build your own country, when in fact it has always been about them building their own spaces. And this puts deep context to what I might want to call the Francophone Revolution. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, all these French once colonized spaces are beginning to wake up and say, no, we can't bank our money with you. No, we can't be watching your TV in our place. No, we're not going to be teaching French in our schools. We're going to find ourselves as Africans. So neocolonialism for me speaks of a system that has been left to run under the management of blacks, but the agenda still remaining as white. And to liberate ourselves will mean we need to deal with the system as it was constructed so that we could build for ourselves a system that works for us. That place, maybe it's in heaven.
All right, all right. Now, as you can see, that brother, he spoke in great detail, with great thoroughness and with great insight about what's happening in Africa. But if you look at it closely, that's exactly what's happening in the United States. And it's no coincidence. This is what's happening all over the world. You have leadership who's been placed in position by these people only for the purpose of controlling the group of people. And if they continue to control the group of people so that the people accept what's being done to them by the white ruling class, then those people will be rewarded with great riches, control, power. Their families will be taken care of for the rest of their lives. All of this. And if they get out of line, like some of our people who do, just like I told you, they will even do it to their own people. They'll eliminate them. You also heard this brother talk about that there are like young people now. The young people, the word is getting out. They don't want to hear the nonsense being repeated because their lives, they're struggling. They're going to these universities, they're getting their degrees, they're working hard, they're doing everything that they were told to do. And then when they get out, they can't get any work, they can't get any jobs. But you got these politicians, these people, these leaders, and they're set for the rest of their lives. Why? Now, let me be clear. I don't have a problem with if you're willing to put your life in jeopardy so that you can protect the people. People look like me and you, our young people, our children, our grandchildren's great-grandchildren, our posterity and our future. You deserve to be rewarded for that. But that reward shouldn't come at the cost of the people's quality of life, quality of living. I'm never going to accept that. And this brother explained it quite clearly. And you heard him in the beginning. He said he was willing to go to Burkina Faso and in that area to do business with France, to fight, to revolt. Because the day and time for our black children and our elderly people and our women to suffer unjustly at the hands of some of these people, that day is over. And the young people, they understand it. And when I say it's over, you can't take that literally in the sense that today it's over. No, this is an ongoing struggle. I'm going to do another video so that you know World War III didn't just start now. No, it didn't just start now. The struggle that we have been engaged in has been going on for thousands of years. It intensified with different groups as they themselves, within their internal tribes, within their internal groups, fought against each other for supremacy over themselves as well as the other people of the world. And that's what we're dealing with, and that's what he's talking about. You have to understand, and it's unfortunate. I tell you a lot about Grandmaster Jay. Don't lose sight of this brother. This brother was telling you the truth, and he wasn't the only one. He comes from a long line of people who told you the truth. Malcolm X and others, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and all the rest of these brothers who spoke up and told the truth. There are people that look like you and me, and we all know there are people that look like you and me. They're really not about you and me. They're about themselves. They're about benefiting themselves and benefiting their families and their friends. And they'll keep this system going and going and going and going as long as they can. And when they die, they want to pass it down to some more people just to keep it going. Because those people, those W's who are in charge, who are in leadership, they know that there are some people who are so greedy, just like them. They've been able to indoctrinate them, but some of them have it in them that they can't resist the temptation of harming and abusing just the regular people, the local people, for their own enrichment. So this is what we're dealing with. I hope you guys understand that brother said a mouthful, and what he said is applicable in everywhere where there are large groups of people that look like you and me, and people that don't look like you and me but don't look like the W's. You understand? Rebuilding. Remember, they bombed Europe. You heard him talk about rebuilding a place that the people are never going to come and rebuild for you and be about you because they're about themselves. All the places where they bombed and destroyed and all that, they went and rebuilt it in a way that was beneficial for them. Japan, they bombed it, destroyed it. So what did they do? Okay, we're going to rebuild it. We're going to, get your industries going, get your economy going, allow your products to come into our markets. We're going to help put your products in our partners' markets in Europe, and then we're going to grow your economy. But we're doing that so that we benefit as capitalists. So you will be subjected to us. All you got to do is look at how Japan has been voting or going. They go everywhere where the United States goes. They follow. Just like a little lapdog, same way with Britain. Britain was number one. You have to understand those people in America, they're not Americans. It don't mean it has nothing to do with that. Those people simply came over from Europe where they were, took a boat, came over to this country. Now they called themselves another name, but they're still, just because you move away, your grandparents and your great-grandparents, you didn't become some different person. That's foolishness. Stop believing all that foolishness. And that ideology of division, carving up, what you heard this brother talk about, carving up the whole Africa in certain ways. They didn't just carve up Africa in the minds of the people in that way so that you're Zimbabwean, you're Nigerian, you're Malawian, you're this or that. They didn't do it that. They did that for the whole world. They emphasized the fact that, okay, you're over here, you're Asian, you're this, you're that, you're over here. So that those people could not come together and defend themselves against the aggressive group of W's. They kept their alliances tight. They separated from Britain. They had their arguments and fights with the Spanish, with the French. They all fought for who's going to be number one in the world. Germany, all of them. They all fought and did that. But they stayed together. I understand. NATO, they stayed together. G7, G20, all this nonsense. They stayed together so that they maintained control. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out at you, let you see that, so that you know the African men and women I'm talking about on the motherland, Not all of our other ones in the other countries, the other continents or whatever, South America, North America, France, Germany, Britain, wherever we are, Caribbean Islands, wherever we are, the people are waking up. The fight is not over. It will never be over. As long as we have air in our bodies, as long as we have air to breathe, we can walk. There are those among us who will never sacrifice our children, our women, and our elderly, and our future. We will never do that. Okay, all right, so that's what that brother was talking about. Uhuru, uhuru, uhuru.